So in this program, the three pieces are really different. Like going from Emily's 16 plus a room, which has the women on point.
Having the ballet technique and the language really helps us take it off and spin it off of what you might expect for a ballerina to be doing necessarily.
So going from Emily's 16 plus room to Solo Echo by Crystal Pite, that has a lot more of like a lyrical feeling in the second movement especially.
Very poetic. There's a smaller group of dancers, so we kind of really hone in a much more intimate way. And then the last piece, Bill, is like this just world unto itself, which I don't really want to describe too much so that people can have their own experience.
I think one thing that's going to surprise the UK audience is the diversity in what we do.
This program that we are bringing is an example not only of three very distinct voices, but three female voices that are important today in the world of contemporary dance.
One of my favorite things about the work we do in this company is the range of physicality.
I think you can expect an honest interaction, and hopefully you leave feeling like we've met one another.
In the work that you will see our company doing, the intention is really to be evolving the art form.
We are extremely excited to come to the UK, and we can't imagine a more exciting audience to be bringing this work to.
Yeah, I'm incredibly excited to go to the UK. It's a huge honor for us to be sharing this work with as many people as we can.
Emily's great. She is incredibly invested in our growth, not only as dancers and artists, but also as people.
She has this great vision of what this art form can be and what it can say.
I think she really respects everyone individually as artists.
I feel in order to really make the art the most important thing in the room, that requires a group of artists that come together as a collective who respect each other, and it's about actually going deeper into the practice. I really believe we become stronger as individuals when we work collectively. So it is very important that each dancer has a place and a purpose in the company.
And she just is always asking for more, in a way that's not oppressive, but in a way that is celebratory of what can happen. So she kind of asks impossible things in a way that excites you. Emily's great.
In this program, the three pieces are really different. Like going from Emily's 16 plus a room, which has the women on point.
Having the ballet technique and the language really helps us take it off and spin it off of what you might expect for a ballerina to be doing necessarily.
So going from Emily's 16 plus room to Solo Echo by Crystal Pite, that has a lot more of like a lyrical feeling in the second movement especially.
Very poetic. There's a smaller group of dancers, so we kind of really hone in a much more intimate way. And then the last piece, Bill, is like this just world unto itself, which I don't really want to describe too much so that people can have their own experience.
I think one thing that's going to surprise the UK audience is the diversity in what we do.
This program that we are bringing is an example not only of three very distinct voices, but three female voices that are important today in the world of contemporary dance.
One of my favorite things about the work we do in this company is the range of physicality.
I think you can expect an honest interaction, and hopefully you leave feeling like we've met one another.
In the work that you will see our company doing, the intention is really to be evolving the art form.
We are extremely excited to come to the UK, and we can't imagine a more exciting audience to be bringing this work to.
Yeah, I'm incredibly excited to go to the UK. It's a huge honor for us to be sharing this work with as many people as we can.
Emily's great. She is incredibly invested in our growth, not only as dancers and artists, but also as people.
She has this great vision of what this art form can be and what it can say.
I think she really respects everyone individually as artists.
I feel in order to really make the art the most important thing in the room, that requires a group of artists that come together as a collective who respect each other, and it's about actually going deeper into the practice. I really believe we become stronger as individuals when we work collectively. So it is very important that each dancer has a place and a purpose in the company.
And she just is always asking for more, in a way that's not oppressive, but in a way that is celebratory of what can happen. So she kind of asks impossible things in a way that excites you. Emily's great.
Bit of feedback there. Hello, thanks for staying. I'm Alistair Spalding. I'm the artistic director here at Sadler's Wells. This is Emily Molnar, who's the artistic director.
Hi, you guys.
Yeah. And we have two dancers, as you can tell, because of the costumes and the hair, Brandon and Kirsten. Now, this is not like normal post-show talks here, because we are being broadcast live to the world and Facebook. So I'm just going to say exactly what's happening. So as well as this live experience, we're also broadcasting this through Facebook, because the company are going on to a tour around the country after this. And so we've linked up with all the websites of the venues, which are the Theatre Royal Newcastle, Birmingham Hippodrome, the Lowry Salford, and the Alhambra in Bradford. So all those people in those parts of the world and UK will be now logging onto their Facebook pages, as well as the Dance Consortium Facebook page. So we're going to have this other audience here. And they are also going to be asking questions. And they're going to be fed through to someone who I'm looking for. Where is he? Where is... Sebastian's over there. Okay, so he's going to feed through questions from the ether to this real place. Got it? But we'll ask you real people as well. And before you have a chance to ask your questions, I'll warm up with a couple of my own just to get things going. Okay? So, Emily... congratulations, first of all. I mean, it's great to have the company and you here and the dancers and this program of work. You've been obviously a dancer yourself, but you decided at a certain point to go into the world of artistic director. It's 2009 in this company. So tell me, how different is that to being a choreographer or dancer? What are the challenges of running a company?
Well, I'd say that's a very large question. There's more delight than challenges being an artistic director, but I think I knew I wanted to direct when I was quite young, but it took a lot of time and a certain amount of just letting life happen or not happen. I was always dancing in companies and questioning things like, how are we coaching people, how are we directing, how are we making, more than seeing my own name on a casting sheet. So I knew something was going on there, and I actually was a rather intense dancer to work with because of that, because I was asking so many questions. But needless to say, I didn't think it was going to happen, and then Ballet BC did come up, and it's been a beautiful, beautiful group effort to kind of take the psychology of a company and turn it around and from the inside out and see what you can do. So for me, it was more a study of human potential, and dance has been always the vehicle that I find fascinating. So I feel very honored to be able to mix those two interests, which are what can people do when they rise to the occasion, when they actually think big and go far and are supported. What can you do? So one of the things I think about a lot is how do we motivate artists in emerging to an established career? What is that day in and day out? How do we actually elevate, or how do we develop our practice as artists inside company endeavors? Because I felt that needed some questioning.
So maybe we can hear from, have you been with the company since Emily took over, or?
No, not that long. I've been with the company for 4 seasons now, so. Yeah.
Sorry. And so, can you recognize what Emily's talking about there in terms of empowerment and her leadership?
Yeah, actually, one of the things that first drew me to Ballet BC, aside from the work, was a female voice as a director, and that was really inspiring to me. The way that Emily directs and kind of gathers the group together is something that I think challenges us all individually, but also as a group. It creates a lot of investigation into what we do, and I really appreciate her vision as a director, and it's something that I noticed right away about the company was the leadership, and that was something that was very attractive to me about the company.
So you were drawn to it. And Brendan, how long have you been with the company?
This is my 3rd season with Ballet BC. And yeah, ever since the beginning, it's been just so much passion and like openness to all of our different like aspects of our artistry. So it's not just about like going and doing a step however way. Like, it's about how we do it, how we go into it, how we think about it, how we, when we're outside of the studio, how do we think about it then as well. Yeah, just all kinds of different aspects of movement and art in general. Yeah, it's very, very deep at Ballet BC, I feel.
So as well as developing the company, you also have to build a repertoire. And, you know, this is a pretty good set of choices here, including your own work. you chose very well to put your own work into this program. But how did you go about that? Because, I mean, you know, before you have to say it, it's just such a brilliantly, and I saw this in Birmingham, the International Festival first as a program, it's such a brilliantly constructed program. Was this intentional, or was there a little bit of, tell us how it came together.
Well, a curation, as you know so well, because you do it so beautifully, is an art form in itself. How do you actually build a conversation? And one of the things I really wanted to do 9 years ago was in Vancouver, to begin there, was to demonstrate what was going on in contemporary dance around the world. And so that's why mixed programs actually came back to us, so that we could introduce a number of different choreographers, both emerging straight through to established, to our Vancouver and then Canadian and international audiences. So one of the things I look for in curating is diversity, is also attention to craft, attention to intention as a creator. And it can be someone very young or someone very experienced. It's the quality of conversation from the inside, and to show a huge range. I mean, the dancers in the company have to be able to kind of, I mean, we do anything from being on the floor in improvisational works to on point. And so the landscape is pretty vast. And most of the choreographers we work with are making new work, so we're creation-based as opposed to a repertory-based company. So they're in a way working in a project-based environment almost all the time. They are making one-on-one with choreographers. So Crystal and Sharon are obviously huge voices today, but I think it does display the three works. Not only are they female choreographers, but female or not, they're very diverse works, and I think they show the potential. They show what is going on in dance right now, which I think is really important. Yeah. But we just came from doing a full-length narrative work, which we rarely do. Mehdi Valersky did, who is, you probably know, a fantastic dancer with Netherlands Dance Theatre, did a gorgeous Romeo and Juliet for us, and that's not something we do all the time, but when we find the right person, we go there.
I want to talk to you about that afterwards. So. Okay, are you ready? Are you ready out there in the ether? Okay, has anyone got any questions to ask in the room, first of all, before we go to the... Yes, go ahead. Well, there are mics because, it's just here because of the broadcast-y type thing we're doing. And it's just coming there, yes. Good. And it's on.
Hello, I have a question for the dancers. Amazing, amazing performance. I love the music, from going from very abstract, kind of intense, abrasive electronic to beautiful cello and classical to kind of the third movement, which just kind of took it to a whole nother level. I just would love to just hear in your own words kind of what it's like to kind of dance to such fundamentally different styles with such kind of intensity. Just love to just hear from your perspective how you cover that much range and depth, and kind of, you know, anything you could share about that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that the music is a different, element in each of the pieces. So in the first piece, it feels kind of like one of the elements that are at play. So there's all of us in the space, there's the space itself, there's the music. It really kind of is another component that we're playing off of. We're not always trying to match it perfectly, but we're trying to kind of create different relationship to it and different conversation with it. And then in Crystal's work, the music is almost just intertwined with the piece itself, from my perspective. It's very important to her, the specificity of the musicality in her work, and it's very specific and it's very beautiful, and I think that the way that it intertwines with the piece is a different kind of experience for us. And then in the third work, it's very exciting. It's like thrilling as well. It kind of gets us. Maybe Brandon wants to speak to that one.
Yeah, that was very beautifully said. What Kirsten was saying about the first two pieces. It's like for the second piece, it's so intertwined, so beautifully and so perfectly. That's the genius of Crystal Pite. And the first one, all the different ranges of things within the music and things that are inspiring certain movements, and it's very diverse and full. And then the last one, it's kind of, it just puts you in a trance in a way. It's like club music, some parts of it, just doom, 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 doom. It's like kind of that heavy beat. So it kind of, I don't know, I feel like it keeps recycling energy within my body and inspiring, just in general, like the work that we do within that. There's like a bunch of different characters and like different mental play within it. So that kind of helps inspire that as well. The like simplicity almost, but like the drive, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it actually also feels like we want to join in that. It feels like we're part of it. I think that's the intention, isn't it? We're in one room. It's great. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes. Yep, it's coming.
I have a question for Emily, and you sort of mentioned that part of what you wanted to do when you took over as artistic director was sort of change the culture within the company and sort of empower the dancers and make it a sort of more collaborative endeavor. And so I wondered if you could maybe talk a bit more about your own process of kind of making work and how you sort of manage, on one hand, sort of having to be the person who makes decisions, creative decisions, but also kind of working with dancers in a collaborative way to sort of make the piece.
That's a great question. It's because the work of the company is not just my own. I feel a lot of my interest is in holding that space for the dancers, but also the choreographers. So there's a lot of kind of management of that as well, which I enjoy. When I have to then wear the hat of the creator, I usually put that at the very bottom, and I have to file back a bunch of budgets in my head and all these other things, and then come into the room somehow and be creative. And so I was talking to a group earlier tonight that is probably one of the greatest challenges of the role, of the job, and probably what I found has taught me so much in dance is what it enables us to actually dare to do, is that you can be flexible enough and adaptable enough that you can find those compartments, but it's really important that we don't give up. I think you can lead in a creative way and you can still not lose yourself. Often in the European system, an artistic director is allowed to not have to do a lot of the other administrative things. And in North America, we wear a lot of that. And I don't think it's a bad thing. It's another challenge to make that separation, to create and to also be an administrative kind of leader inside of that. And fundraiser. So I think I'm constantly, and I think that's why I enjoy this so much, is that it pushes me to kind of challenge who I want to be as a person first. So how to be present and how to not, when I first got the job, I had another artistic director in Canada tell me that it was just about bums and seats. And I really thought I'm not going to do this job very well. And first of all, the audience, you are more smart than I will ever be in watching dance, and I want to learn from you. So I think I'm constantly, every day and in every way, it's a learning curve that's phenomenal. So I love that challenge. It helps me be more creative, I guess.
And you certainly, you've got bums on seats. We're totally sold out for this season, so you're doing something right. And you're making great work, which is have we got anyone on, you have, okay. So Sebastian's going to speak on behalf of the person that's out there in Facebook or MySpace, whatever it's called. I keep updating my MySpace page, but no one ever gets in touch. Yeah.
So this is a question from Asley on Twitter. She's asked, Emily, how do you choose your dancers?
Oh, that's also a great question. Well, they're extraordinary, and it's more of a gift for me to work with them than I think the other way around. It is a very intensive auditioning process now after 9 years, and we're about to do one coming up in London. watching class, so we train every morning. We don't just warm up, we take ballet class. That tells me actually more about just where they place themselves in the room is fascinating, but actually I need to see, ballet class doesn't really do that much. So then we go through repertoire, then we go through improvisation, then we go through basically a discussion about what are you looking for, why are you dancing, what do you want to do with your work. And so I'm hiring people first. I'm looking for people that are curious, that want to work in a collaborative environment, that have classical training but an enormous amount of contemporary training. And so the window gets smaller and smaller, but most of all it's the curiosity to want to actually really make, and then those that have the ability to do that. So it's an extraordinary team, and they work very, very closely together. I've not seen a group work so hard, and it's really a privilege.
And how did you come? Did you do audition? Did you? Yeah.
Oh yes, we all auditioned. Yeah, I think Emily said it, what she's looking for is a curiosity. This is not a workplace where we clock in and clock out in any way. It's a workplace where our workplace is everywhere. Like we're kind of leaving the studio and wondering about things and going home to research maybe or see films or see other art in order to come back into the room with what we do and ask more questions or find different things inside of the thing that we do every single day. So I think that in order to actually, the audition process physically, of course, is challenging, but I think that the thing that will set the individuals who work with us in this company apart is just that wanting for growth, development, a curiosity, like a never kind of arriving feeling, like we're just going for stuff and figuring it out all together as a team.
One of the things we wanted to do is create an environment where any choreographer could come in and create a work as if it was their own company. And so to be able to be a group of artists that can go through working with various styles and artists, it does require a certain amount of flexibility of mind. So that's.
And also, it's a relatively small company, isn't it? Basically, you did everything. It's a slightly smaller cast for Crystal's piece, but otherwise, you're on. So that's.
Yeah, they're pretty. It's very intimate.
Yeah, intense. Anyone else in the room? Your turn. Yes. Okay, there's one here, just here, the front. Yeah, it's coming.
Hi, I was really intrigued by the vocalizations in the final piece, and I was wondering if you could expand on them. Do they mean anything specific?
Vocalizations. Yeah, like magic and the kind of barking at the end. I think it kind of speaks to like the imagination, like the kind of world that we're diving into. She didn't really speak about specifically what it meant, but I think, at least for me, it was kind of we all of us go into this like very deep Alice in Wonderland kind of world, and we're kind of these characters, like I was saying earlier, these like shifting personalities and things, and things just kind of explode out of the body, and I think some of that vocally was at least for me, she kind of like played with that, and it's also really enjoyable and fulfilling to vocalize when you're dancing sometimes, because it kind of comes from the gut, especially from movement like that, and then being able to vocalize it. Yeah, that's kind of how it feels for me.
Some of the vocalizations are cues for us, so they're used as a tool to signify something else will happen within the group. So it's a little bit of this feeling of what we're doing is kind of inside of a world, and it could be happening kind of anywhere, and it would still be happening as it is. And magic is also it was kind of like a game, how like we all have material and it's independent, and when magic is called, you have to scurry to the center, and so whether you're kind of done your material or not, it kind of evokes this reactionary feeling in the body, and collects the group, and then something else happens. So it's a little bit of both. It's like it keeps us inside of this world, and it's also, they're used as cues sometimes, and it keeps things, they're different every time in some way, so it keeps things really fresh. Even how the dancers are using the voice in magic is always different and up to them, and how it is expressed is new and different every time, so it keeps it quite lively for us.
Sharon's work is very imaginistic, and it really doesn't have any boundaries or borders. It really goes, even the way she describes the inside of the work is quite as vivid as the vocalization.
Any more on the online? Yes, there's one.
I'm going to sort of amalgamate a couple. It's the same sort of question. One is about, it's International Women's Day coming up, and they're asking who has been the most inspirational woman on your dance journey. That's asked by One Dance UK and also Olivia on Twitter. And Olivia's also asked, do you go out dancing in your free time?
So a serious question and a less serious one. So yes, International Women's Day, and yeah, I mean this is happens to be an all-female, but still you're a woman and you're running the company, and tell us.
That's those questions of like the one I have such a hard time with, because women everywhere I see, from young to older, an example to be of wisdom and opportunity. So I can't say just one. I mean, Brandon, do you?
Yeah.
Emily Molnar.
Yep. I would have to say my very first dance teacher, who kind of she like brought me into dance, and then after that she kind of took me under her wing and then showed me School of the Arts, which is a dance school, and like kind of pushed me there, and like was taking me to dance classes and to summer intensives, and really just worked her butt off to like get me into a dance career. And I wouldn't be here today without her, so she's definitely like my inspiration. And, yeah.
You got one?
I think I'm with Emily on this. I have trouble picking just one, but what I can say is that I feel very privileged to be in a workplace that does offer up space for so many strong female voices, and that's something that I aspire to one day. So I find that very hopeful to see that there's that place for women working in dance today. That means a lot to me and the other female artists, and yeah. And we do go out dancing outside of dancing.
Yeah, actually, when I worked for Frankfurt Ballet, I think that some of the best auditions actually happen in a club. So,
yeah,
if you go out dancing afterwards, you found the dancer.
Just don't end up in the same club as these people, because you'll look completely ridiculous.
But to Kirsten, half the company, I think actually 3/4 of the company choreograph. So there's a lot of going on.
Okay, another one in the room. Maybe one or two more. Yes, right at the back there. So can you see? Yep. Someone's coming with a mic.
You did a wonderful job. I really liked the last piece. How long did it take to do from the beginning to the end?
So the piece was originally made for the Batsheva Dance Company, and it was a longer version. It was almost an hour long, and then Sharon condensed it to make it a 30-35 minute work. And alongside, I think the Royal Swedish, we're one of the few companies that has this version. So when we had the pleasure of doing it, it was set on us in 3 weeks. So we worked 6 hours a day, and then we had another 3 weeks. So it was about a 7-week process to bring it together, and we had some wonderful stagers, and then Sharon came and worked with us for a week and a bit, 2 weeks. Yeah. So it's always quite dense, our processes. I don't know if you guys would agree.
Just so you know, Sharon Ayala is our new associate artist, and we're gonna see more of her work. Sorry, just an advert. But she's the artistic director of our National Youth Dance Company, but her own company are coming also in July, so you'll see a few more chances. She's great. She's great. Okay, and any more in the ether? And then, no, he's shaking. One more from in the room. Yes, there in the middle. And then we'll go home and or go to a club with these people. Yeah.
Hiya. It was a fantastically diverse programme and fantastic to see 3 female choreographers. I just wondered if that was something you did intentionally or if it just was a happy accident, I guess.
The female choreographers?
Yeah.
So it was intentional, but they weren't initially on the same program. So each of the pieces existed in a different program. And one of the things I always do is I try something out on our Vancouver audiences and see how it's received. And then if it feels like it has a life, then I try to build a tour program. And so I thought this was a beautiful opportunity to put 3 female choreographers. And then just slightly after that, it became a much bigger topic, which is great. It's needed. But it starts way before it ever meets the stage. It starts in our training. It starts way, way back.
Well, whatever the process was, it landed really well tonight, and I want to thank you for your performances, for leading the company, your own choreography, for this fantastic evening of dance. Thank you for staying, and goodbye to the world out there on Facebook. Thank you so much. Thank you. And thanks to Russell for signing.